Batman and Superman. Day and night. Black and blue. Man and God. The world's finest. The two best bros in the superhero world. I mean, how could you not love these guys? With the impending release of their very first crossover movie, I've decided to do my very own Batman Superman Spectacular, where I analyze two works featuring this dynamic duo. Starting off, of course, with the best superhero of all time,
Batman.
Wait, who said that? Where are you?
Down here. Hi.
Well, if it isn't Changeling number 33. Decided to finally come out of your hole?
Oh, come now, 32. Is that how you greet your favorite brother?
What do you want, 33?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that you give the best ever superhero the credit he deserves.
Ugh. Okay, if I start with him, will you leave?
Maybe.
Fine. Here's A Dark Night for Equestria.
Hey, do you bleed?
What does that even...
You will.
Over the course of his crime-fighting career, Batman has faced numerous foes. From small-time crime bosses to those that you would call gods, the Caped Crusader has faced them all. Now he faces a new enemy, one who would bring destruction to the entire world. The one, the only, Morgan Le Fay. Who the f*** is that?
I'm looking. Okay, she was in an episode of the Justice League. Oh, she also appeared on the Nintendo Wii.
Well, anyway, our story starts out with Miss Fay here trying to take over the world. In order to make this dream a reality, she opens a portal to hell and calls upon the spirits that lay within, or at least tries to, before the Bee-Man himself messes the whole thing up. Unfortunately, his meddling causes the portal to go haywire, sending the two into the nightmarish realm known as Equestria. Now, as I'm reading this story, I'm getting the feeling that me and Mr. Onomatopoeia are gonna get along just well, considering that he pokes fun at the humans turning into ponies trope that just plagues crossovers. And I know that Equestria Girls made this canon, but let me ask you something. Which looks more badass? This or this? I rest my case. Now our fearless Dark Knight is alone, stranded away from his fancy toys, his super pals, his underage sidekicks, and his loyal manservant. Trapped in a world he barely understands and barely tolerates, Batman must join forces with the silly ponies in order to stop Morgan from wreaking havoc in Equestria. When this story got recommended to me, I was promised a tale that captured the character perfectly. That sounds fine, but what does that mean? Especially when we're talking about a character that has over 150 years of history. Since there have been books written on the subject, I will try to keep this relatively brief. While I was browsing Reddit, I came across an interesting thread that was all about Batman and Superman, comparing the two heroes and what made them distinct. One person suggested that Superman was a god trying to be a man, while Batman was a man trying to be a god. And this ain't a bad metaphor. Despite being a dude in a bat costume, he always finds a way to outwit and kick the asses of all of his enemies. And honestly, that's one of the coolest parts of his character. I mean, why else do you think there are so many YouTube clips about Batman owning someone? It's practically its own genre.
What? Nobody asked you to prom, so now you dress as a bat and prowl around your parents' basement?
What's this do?
Huh?
No buttons. I assume it works off concentration.
How'd you do that?
You weren't concentrating.
This aspect is shown time and time again within the story, whether he's fighting hordes of Timberwolves, pissed off alicorns, or superpowered enchantresses. Not only that, he's also shown to be very strategic. Upon entering Equestria, he makes it a priority to learn about the inhabitants so that he can be prepared. He leaves nothing to chance. However, somebody else came up with a comparison that I felt was a bit more fitting. Instead of him being a man trying to be a god, he's a villain trying to be a hero. And personally, I feel like this interpretation provides a bit more insight into what makes Batman tick, and it can be applied to this very story. The thing you have to realize about the Dark Knight is that he's kinda messed up. I mean, mentally stable people usually don't spend their time and money dressing up as a bat and beating up criminals.
No, you complete me.
You're garbage. You kills for money.
Don't talk like one of them. You're not. Even if you'd like to be. To them, you're just a freak. Like me.
Bruce Wayne is a broken person, and he knows this. I mean, why does he refuse to kill his enemies? Because he's afraid that if he allows himself to kill just once, then he'll do it again, and again, and again, until he himself becomes a menace to society. It's for this reason that he's mastered the art of self-control and meditation. If he allows his emotions to control him, things will get messy. I mean, hell, when comparing himself to Superman, he notes that, deep down, Clark's essentially a good person. And deep down, I'm not. This clearly isn't a guy who holds a high opinion of himself. As a result, he's developed a cold and distant personality. Batman's not what you would call a people person.
I don't know, honest. I never went back after he muscled in. I don't want nothing to do with that clown.
That's enough. I think you got your answer.
What you say? That you only meant well, 'cause you did.
The Dark Knight's brooding and grim personality is one of the staples of the character, combined with his brilliant dry wit, and what you have is a character that is a lot of fun to watch. A Dark Knight for Equestria shows this quality well, and his interactions with the main six are absolutely fantastic. Anyway, by all accounts, Batman should have been a villain. And hell, in some universes, he was. However, he chose to take a higher path. Guided by the memories of his parents and the help of Alfred, Bruce Wayne made it his personal mission to help those in need. He serves justice to those that would harm others, and takes on the burdens that no one else can. Once in a while, he will find himself empathizing with kids who are just like himself, and he takes them under his wing, offering them training, mentorship, and a place to call home. After all, if it wasn't for the love he received while he was growing up, Batman would not have been Batman at all. While roaming across Ponyville, Batman comes across an orphaned and disabled Scootaloo, who's having a rough time at school lately. Seeing himself in the troubled child, Batman decides to give her a hand. Over the course of the story, Scootaloo becomes his newest sidekick, and learns how to handle herself both physically and emotionally. This friendship that they have is honestly one of the best parts of the story. Not only is it insanely cute, but it's also kind of touching at times. If anything, I would have loved to see more of it. Okay, so if we've learned anything from this review, it's that Batman is definitely in character. So how's everything else? Yeah, it's alright, I guess. Could use some work, though. The plot is a fairly standard Find the MacGuffin storyline, where Batman and the ponies have to find ancient artifacts which have the ability to open portals to other worlds. Nothing like pre-Equestria Girls fanfiction, am I right? Each artifact lies in a temple, which can only be opened by completing some puzzle or task, like facing your greatest fear. This gives Batman an opportunity to showcase some of his character, and it gives the author a chance to include cameos from his more popular villains. It's an okay storyline, and I appreciate how the author uses it to flesh out his main character. But I also found it to be a little predictable. Oh, let me guess. Do Batman and the ponies do all the hard work while Morgan just ends up stealing it at the end? Yup. Does Batman end up dying only to come back because of some stupid Deus Ex Machina? You betcha. Oh wait, spoilers! While we're on the subject, let's talk about Morgan Le Fay. Now, I don't know much about her in the comics or cartoons, but I found her to be a little lackluster as a villain. Batman villains are among the most iconic, well-known, and quotable in all of fiction. When you think of all the Batman movies, you don't remember them for who played Bruce Wayne, you remember them for the villains. Whether they be cheesy and over the top or downright psychotic, those films are defined by the antagonists. In this story, Morgan is a sorceress who wants to take over the world because reasons. She's serviceable as a villain, but she's not very interesting or compelling. I get that we probably needed a villain that could hold their own in Equestria, but I feel like the author could have been a bit more creative. The other major villain is Trixie, who, after the humiliation she faced in Ghostbusters, decides to team up with Morgan to help take over the world. If you want me to be honest, she was also kind of meh. But that was mostly because she didn't really do that much. Morgan does most of the heavy lifting, and Trixie just ends up being the tour guide. Her motivation for joining Morgan also felt a little bit weak. Trixie is arrogant and proud, but she's not the world-dominating type. Yeah, she tried to take over Ponyville, but that was when she was under the influence of the Alicorn Amulet. The author tries to justify it, making it so she and Twilight have a history that predates their initial meeting, but my problem is that this history is brought up so late in the game that I don't have a chance to be invested in it. It also feels kind of out of place and improbable, which kind of broke my immersion a little bit. Speaking of immersion breaking, another issue that I have with this story are the number of weird inclusions and plot devices that feel like they just kind of came out of nowhere. For example, Spike manages to find a DC comic book. No, I'm not talking about a ponified version, but a legit DC superhero comic book featuring the likes of Batman, Superman, and the rest. Not only that, but a legit DC superhero comic book featuring Batman that doesn't reveal his identity. Not only is this completely dumb and improbable, it also contributes nothing to the overarching narrative. The only thing it's good for is one throwaway Lyra likes humans joke. Some of the stuff with Scootaloo also felt a bit weird. Like the fact that she had a family heirloom which actually had the ability to bring dead people back to life. Batman also manages to turn Scootaloo into a capable fighter within the course of a month. This would have been more believable if we as the audience actually saw the training. Speaking of which, the last criticism I have is that the author could have spent more time fleshing out the side characters. There's actually a section in the story where Batman is literally sitting around waiting for the plot to move forward. I guess the author didn't want to move on to the next big plot point yet. And instead of using this time to flesh out Batman's relationship with Scootaloo, or learning more about Trixie, we are instead treated to a filler plotline where Sweetie Belle gets kidnapped by Diamond Dogs. It had nothing to do with anything else that was going on, and it felt like a complete waste of time. Even though there is technically a payoff in the end, it still felt like a throwaway storyline. If the author focused a bit more on the characters instead of these weird details, I feel like this story would have been a bit stronger. However, considering that this is the first story he published, it's no surprise that it has a few kinks. For a first story, it's still pretty good. Batman is in top form, and it is an absolute pleasure to see him in action. His relationship with the characters feels genuine, and makes me want to see more. The villains were kind of meh, and the story was kind of predictable, but if you are a Batman fanatic, then you will definitely get a kick out of A Dark Knight for Equestria.
Am I blue? Am I blue? Ain't these tears in my eyes telling you? Am I blue? You'd be too if each plan that you had done fell through.